Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Gunlock with the Independent Women's Forum, and I'll be hosting today's afternoon tea and book chat about a wonderful new children's book called Camilla Can Vote, celebrating the Centennial of Women's Right to Vote. I am thrilled to be joined by the authors, Mary Morgan Ketchel, and her fabulous mother, the Senator from Tennessee, Senator Marsha Blackburn. Thank you both for coming today.
Delighted to be with you. Thank you so much for having us. And what a great conversation to be having as we are just a little over a month away from celebrating that centennial of women getting the right to vote. August 18th, 2020 marks 100 years.
Well, I have to say, first of all, from all the women at IWF, we're thrilled to have you on, Senator, because you were one of our Women of Valor. You received our Women of Valor Award, so we are all big fans of yours and thrilled to be meeting your daughter as well and talking about this great new project. I want to start off by complimenting you both on the book. It is very entertaining. My children, I have 3 boys. We loved it. We all loved it. But I have to say, and I don't want to give too much away because I know you're going to read an excerpt, I love how you really captured how kids can become so immersed in a subject, a historic learning about history, that they can sort of feel a part of it. And I don't want to give too much away, but you did it in a really clever way. It made me think of myself as a young girl going to museums and learning about things. So I really wanted to give you high praise, and really for anyone listening in on this, I really think this is an excellent book to get, particularly as the Senator mentioned, because we are just about to celebrate the centennial of the women's vote.
Well, Mary Morgan brought the creativity to this book and really makes it come to life. And Julie, I am with you. I think the way that she had her just move into the moment and feel as if she was a part of living this history, I think it is so wonderful. I think that is what is going to captivate the attention of young girls, because the goal is to encourage them and to inspire them to do something bigger than themselves and to think about the talents that God has given them, the experiences that they have, and the way they can use that to achieve something wonderful.
That's right. Well, I don't want to dive right into my questions just yet, because I think I happen to know a few friends texted me and said that they are listening, but they're also listening with their kids. So I think this might be a good time, if you guys don't mind, reading an excerpt from the book. I think it sets the stage for the conversation afterwards.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Yes. So our little character, Camilla, goes to the museum on a class trip. And she is so enthralled in the exhibit that her imagination runs wild. Here is, well, I'll just get right to it. So her teacher, Wendy, is addressing the class. And now we come to a special part of our tour, Wendy said to the class. I'm going to give each of you a yellow rose pin, the symbol of the women's suffrage movement. Camilla's eyes grew wide with excitement, and her classmates squealed as they each got their yellow rose pin. But when it was Camilla's turn, Wendy stuck a pin onto Camilla's blouse, but then something happened. Just as Camilla touched the pin, the rose was no longer a pin at all. Instead, it transformed into a real yellow rose. Do you think I should go on?
Yes, I do.
I get exciting. When Camilla looked up, she realized she wasn't in the museum anymore. Where am I? Camilla wondered aloud. A man with a top hat and a coat with shiny brass buttons quickly answered, Young lady, you are in the lobby of the Hermitage Hotel in Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome. That's as far as I'm going to go.
That's a great teaser. And I will tell folks who are interested, it has a little bit of history, a little bit of Downton Abbey. I think it's a great, entertaining book for adults and kids of all ages. So that's a great excerpt to get people interested. I'd like to sort of just start off with the obvious question, which is, you mentioned the senator, that the Centennial is right around the corner. It's next month. This is a huge moment in American history, and we are going to be celebrating the centennial of it. I'm interested in knowing, Mary Morgan and Senator Blackburn, what encouraged you to go this route of doing a children's book? And obviously, this is a book that is geared towards younger children. Why do you think that was the best vehicle?
Go ahead. Okay, so I've had a special perspective on a woman speaking out and having a voice. I watched my mother as I was growing up become elected to the state senate first, and then I was able to vote for her to be the first female in her own right to win the U.S. congressional seat in the state of Tennessee. And then just recently, she was sworn in as the first female to win the Senate seat in the state of Tennessee. And we decided to kick off the year of the woman with a suffrage tea in her honor during the swearing in. And I watched as a group that was gathered around listened to an historian tell of the day that the vote was won. And it just brought to light the fact that a lot of children were hearing this for the first time, and I loved watching their faces.
Yeah.
But that a lot of parents and adults really were hearing the full story for the first time and watching them appreciate that and the conversations that came from that moment. It just started to stir, and I thought, this is such a colorful and dramatic story. It is so exciting the way that the events unfolded and the drama of this 72-year-long fight, culminating in this one day in downtown Nashville, Tennessee, with a 48-48 tie in the legislature, the suffragists all there. They climb the 72 steps, and in runs this young legislator with a letter from his mother.
It's the best story.
It's fantastic.
It's the best story. It really is. And honestly, I wanted to touch on that. I love that part of the book. And I loved that his mother, I don't want to say too much, but tell us a little bit about this story, about this man, Harry T. Byrne, 24 years old, youngest member of the State House at the time. And he was a deciding vote. And tell us a little bit about his mother, who is named, I love this name, Feb Ensminger Byrne, and what she told him.
Yes, well, Miss Feb is what she was called, and still to this day, the Harry T. Byrne family descendants who still live in East Tennessee and are just wonderful, wonderful people. They still refer to her as Miss Feb. And she had written her son and asked him to support ratification. She was a suffragist.
Right.
And Julie, one of the interesting things, there were women's suffrage clubs all across the country.
Right.
And indeed in Tennessee, with Tennessee being one of the last states to take up the ratification of the amendment, then you had these clubs that popped up all across the state.
Yeah.
So Feb belonged to a club. She was a suffragist. Her son had decided to be an anti, as they were referred to, opposed to suffrage, and he was wearing the red rose, which was the mark that you were an anti-suffrage. And so she wrote to him and asked him to change his vote and to help Miss Carrie Chapman Cat, to put the rat in ratification.
Yes. And the best part, what I love the most about that story is also that she told him, she said, "Don't forget to be a good boy."
Right.
It's kind of, as a mother, Mary Morgan, you're a mother of boys, and I must say that half a dozen times a day. That's a lie. I must say it 100 times a day. But that was, that's a sweet story. But it is so interesting how I loved you included that in the book and talked about, moms have influence. moms have influence over their sons, even on really important matters like this. So I love that addition to the book. Let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned, Mary Morgan, you said something that I thought was interesting. You said, some people, you'll talk to children. I've actually talked to adults who don't know who some of these suffragettes, who don't know their names, who don't know about them, and certainly, and it's interesting, I think this was really valuable, the ending of your book, when you talk about it took 78 years. This change did not happen, suddenly. Why do you think that is? Why don't we talk and celebrate these women as much as we should?
Well, I think it's hard to conceive in this instant gratification culture, and I think it's very important to help children realize that history is there for the learning, and we are able to glean so much from just knowing a little bit about the past, and in this case, these trailblazing women that worked for 72 years, really started this effort in 1848 in Seneca Falls, New York, and to have a young reader realize that things don't happen overnight, and a young lady to realize that this wasn't one woman's fight, it was generational. It was thousands upon thousands of women. It was a concerted effort. They were very organized. They were very kind in the way they delivered their message, even with their symbol of the rose. We talked about the aunties and the pro-staffs wearing the different color roses. This was their system of lobbying and of campaigning. Yes, they made banners and they went and protested the president, asking him how long is going to be, how long is it going to take? And they meant it. It had taken a long time to that point, but that it was generational and that it didn't happen overnight, and that it's really only been 100 years since women achieved this right, and how quickly we expect things to happen in this day and age. So I think it's a good message for children that it's not one person and it doesn't happen overnight. And like this. Mm-hmm.
Mary Morgan, that is such a good lesson. And I also think it's interesting because you mentioned the instant gratification culture that we're in today. But I also think the message is that don't give up. I feel like part of the instant gratification culture that we're in, it encourages, like, if you don't, and I know that that's the point of the instant gratification, but some people really don't understand the phrase, the long game, and I think there's something also very interesting to think about how the women at Seneca Falls, many of them were not alive to see their dream realized. And that's truly sacrificial, to give your life to a cause, and you may not see the positive results of that work. That really says a lot about people. But the other thing that you said that I thought is really interesting, and actually I wanted to bring this up, you both have a really special connection to this issue. Mary, seeing your mom as the first congresswoman from Tennessee, the first female senator from Tennessee, tell us a little bit what it's like to vote for your mom, who was, she was breaking down barriers as well.
It has been wonderful to watch her go through the process and entering the state senate when I was still in school, but old enough to do things for myself.
Old enough to campaign.
Old enough to go knock on doors. But then, taking that second bite at the apple and getting involved and knowing when it was time to enter the arena and really going for it and assembling teams around her of like-minded people with energy for these issues and with the enthusiasm with which she was able to approach the issues, and just watching her study and learn and adapt and be conversational and listen and compromise and lead. It has just been such an education, not only for me, but for my children. With children that are her,
my grandchildren.
They're Marshy.
They're Marshy.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah. But Senator, you've been really involved and have really worked hard to bring more attention to this important event in August that's happening to celebrate the Centennial. You introduced the Women's Suffrage Centennial Commemorative Coin Act. That is a mouthful. It was introduced last year and the president signed it. Tell us a little bit about this coin.
Yes, it is a silver dollar coin, and it is going to be released on August 18th. And we're thrilled with that. The artwork is done, the mint is producing the coin, and we felt it was important to do. This was a bipartisan, bicameral effort. Every woman in the Senate supported doing this, and we pushed it through. It was, and Kirsten Gillibrand was my partner on this legislation. And how wonderful to know that there will be a coin that will circulate that will really pay tribute to these women and the work that they did and the effort that they made. You know, this was a multi-generational effort. And you had grandmothers, moms, and daughters all working together on this effort. And Julie, the thing that has been so encouraging about this, you know, Mary Morgan loved this story. When she learned about it, when she was in middle school and high school, she just was so drawn to the story. And then I have always loved the story and the fact that you had Tennessee play that pivotal role.
Right.
So when I was sworn in, I said, let's make this a part of my swearing in, which we did. And to hear people then say, I remember my grandmother telling me something about this, or my great-grandmother had talked about this, or she belonged to a suffrage club. You know, it brought those pieces that were there in those families' histories forward. And what a source of encouragement for young girls to know someone in their family that preceded them was someone who was willing to stand up and work for an issue that was going to make the lives of every single person better.
Well, I just want to read just a couple comments that are coming in. One says, such a great book for all kids to read. Amber says, it is such a great lesson that one vote can make a difference. Kelsey says, I can't wait to buy this for my daughter. So some really great comments coming in. You know, IWF is concerned about, I mentioned this earlier, sort of the state of history education in the United States. I'd mentioned talking to young women and talking to kids, and, you know, I say the name, you know, Susan B. Anthony, and I get a blank stare, and it just shocks me. But the truth is that we've got some work to do in terms of reminding Americans, and particularly this new generation, of all the work that these suffragettes did. We've started a new series called How to Talk to Kids About ... And our first one was How to Talk to Kids About Patriotism, that we launched just last month, obviously for the 4th of July. What we're finding is a lot of parents are struggling with, you know, what makes the United States uniquely good and unique. And so we wrote this document. It was very popular, and we're going to be doing one on women's right to vote for this next month. And I write them, and I will be including your book because it's the perfect way to open up this subject with kids. I think it's just the perfect vehicle to start a conversation. I just have I know this one was just released today, but are there plans for more?
That's right. So Camilla Can Vote. What else can Camilla do?
Right.
For office, Camilla can be a senator. Camilla for president. Really, the sky's the limit. And the point is to connect a young reader with these trailblazing women in history and to help them understand how this relates to them and the people they know in their life today and what this might mean for them in the future. So exactly. I think one of the things that is helpful in helping a child just understand and retain history when they're learning about history is to learn about the people and learn a little bit more, about the development of the process for that person that made such a difference in history. And so it's interesting to learn about the relationship between Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and how they were such dear friends, and how they worked off of each other like a tag team for so many years, and exhausted the stump around the country giving the speeches that Susan B. Anthony is known for, but that Elizabeth stayed home with children, and that really was her priority. But she was doing the research, and the meetings they had were at the Stanton home, and they had the tea, and they had the children running around. And these were girlfriends, and they were a great combination in history. And I think it's always interesting when you can learn a little bit more and about those people that play the big roles in history, and the little as well. And some of the writers for children write young men into the story more than they do young ladies. And I would like to see young ladies written into the story more, and let them immerse themselves in the history and in the characters and in these personal journeys.
Yeah.
And help.
I think in our day and age, we talked about sort of instant gratification. I think there's also this sense in this among a younger generation that they have it so bad, right? There's this sense that things are just so bad. And I sometimes think history is the most important thing to teach children, because nothing will make you feel better than reading about being a child during the Depression, or being, being a young adult during, World War II and trying to start a life, and then having to go, fight a war for 4 years. I mean, this country has really endured a lot, but it is also, like you mentioned here, there's great victories, wonderful things to be proud of. We have grown and we have improved, and it has been due to the work of the women that you have written about. I am so thankful that you've written this book and that you've taken this on, and I can't wait till Camilla runs for president or senator or becomes the first of something like your wonderful mother. So thank you again for writing this fabulous book.
Thank you so much. And
Thank
you
you
for having us with you today. We certainly have enjoyed it.
Well, the last thing I'd like you to say is actually, and I should have said this earlier, but where can they get this book?
Yes, please. Let's go out and get this book today. It's available at all major retailers and on Amazon. I think there's a link in our bio to the Amazon book buy.
IWF has also posted it in the comment section here, and I'm sure that we will be also promoting it on our website and through Twitter and other social media sources. So we will definitely get out the word. And just a quick note to the listeners here, IWF is planning on getting a lot more out there to celebrate the Centennial and the anniversary of the women's vote. Be sure to go to IWF to sign up for email updates and text alerts. We look forward to doing more of these events and to hosting you two on your next books. Congratulations on the release of the book today, and thanks again for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye.